Hello, my lovelies! I'm Jenny O, the author with no last name, and today I'm continuing to talk about Star Stable Online and how not to make an MMO. It's important to note here that I'm not only an author, I'm a sometime peer reviewer, a development editor, a fashion designer, and a game dev who has lived in San Francisco. And for one reason or another, all of these are important, so bear with me. I want to put this first. There will be spoilers ahead for Star Stable Online and the original Starshine Legacy games. None of what is happening is the dev team's fault. Please, do not harass the dev team. None of what is happening is the ambassador's fault. They are PR volunteers and aren't paid. Please, do not harass the ambassadors. And when I say this player base of Star Stable Online are children, I mean most of the players are under the age of consent. And from where I sit on the other side of 30, they're children. Children with YouTube channels and big Instagram accounts doing great things, and still children. It's factual, not derogatory. Much of this information is alleged, unconfirmed, and yet paints a very compelling picture, as most of it reinforces each other. For those of you who do not know, Star Stable Online is an online, massive multiplayer game that touts itself as a continuing adventure with your friends. In Star Stable, you can ride horses, do quests, and well, that's about it. It's 2011, and Pixel Tales has opened a server in Sweden with their first multiplayer massive online game, Star Stable. It's a small area with a lot of recycled assets and music. Within 8 months, they were worldwide. Over the next 2 years, they opened reskinned areas from the original Star Stable Autumn game, including franchise favorites, Yordvik Stables, including Herman, and a couple of the Soul Riders, Linda and Alex, in story and side quests, aka content. They also added things like emotes and smaller game mechanics that, while not groundbreaking, did add to the game overall. Things like clubs, map travel, and championship PvP. Right, monetization. They also had a small amount of monetization, putting in clothes players could buy for in-game currency, and special sets for premium currency, a microtransaction for map travel, and a spend the night function of premium currency to advance story faster. An overly expensive change the name of your horse function / fee, some small premium currency hair makeup styles, and small premium currency purchases for pets, and then new horses they could buy outside of their starter horse that cost real world money, with a few mane and tail styles you could customize for spice. Whew. Let's divert into the horses for a moment. Star Stable Online is famously a horse game. So yes, they put in horses to, actually, I don't know. These horses have no value other than looking pretty and giving you something to do in training them. They can stand in your stable. They actually have no real mechanical value to the game. They are pure cosmetics inserted to garner attention and channel sales of premium currency. To kids. At first, the horses were either horses straight out of the seasonal games or reskinned horses out of the seasonal games. You could first buy more than one horse in April 2013, and 12 horses were available for the prices of 300 to 1500 premium currency. The mane and tail styles were also straight out of the seasonal games. This is literally the beginning of one of the business quarters, in 19 months after they opened their game. So, quote, they weren't making money until they put in horses to buy, so they weren't making money for 19 months. And it seems to have scarred them for life. You have to buy every horse individually. There is no way to change their coats, so they tend to release several at a time with the models in different texture skins. You can't add markings or take away markings. This is also true for the clothes and the gear, and down to the hair and makeup. You are at the whims of the management on what you're going to get and when you're going to get it, and you can't change it in any way. in 2013, when Guild Wars had the ability to recolor your clothes in 2005. This has continued to present. There is still no way to customize anything of any assets with an in-game mechanic in SSO to be what you want it to be rather than what they've decided it should be. Then they started making new models. The new model started in June of 2013 with the Frisian, and they reskinned it for the Andalusians released that October. It took 21 months for a new horse model. That's it. The Jorvik ponies were added in August, so the very first year you could start buying extra horses you don't need, they started reskinning 2 older models from the Star Stable seasonal games, and they released 2 brand new horse models they can reskin and charge for currency. Okay, that's not actually bad. The Frisian has been redone twice since, once in 2016 and again in 2020 with the name Jorvik Frisian, so they didn't have to abide by breed standards. What? No, bad. The Jorvik pony was remodeled in 2018, and the Andalusian was remodeled in 2019. The Arabian was added in 2014. The Irish Cob/North Swedish was also added in 2014, along with the Fjord horse, which came with the release of Dino Valley. So 3 new asset models in 2014. Also not bad in keeping with their previous year, as most players couldn't tell the 2 older models apart. It's subtle. The Fjord horse per breed standards only has 6 variations, so that limited the Fjord's ability to reskin, but all to the better, really. In November of 2014, after 2 years of teasing, they opened a completely brand new area of the game called Valley of the Hidden Dinosaur. Oh, you mean like the original name of Hidden Entertainment? I see what you did there. You had to do over 200 quests to even open it, be level 15, and it had a massive amount of quests attached to it to even set up the camp. Dino Valley has a cold area mechanic. You might want the North Swedish horse to be able to move about at a normal pace. Otherwise, your horse moves slow. So again, you don't really need the North Swedish horse as long as you take the speed hit. Then you could crunch reputation with a group in Dino Valley to buy the Fjord, until they, and the Gen 1 Fjord horse, were removed in 2018. The Fjord horse has returned with no reputation grind required. The people have not. But they're working on bringing them back. Really? And for the most part, Dino Valley has remained barren of story and things to do since, like most of the rest of the map. It came up when saving Anne in 2019, sort of, so it took 4.5 years for them to make this area relevant. Now, Star Stable uses a system called throttling to reduce player time in-game and spread game story over time, meaning you can only play so many quests during the day before you hit a clock, and you have to log out and log in after the server's soft reset for the night. There are many gamers who hate this system, but honestly, after an hour of questing, you can get really brain tired, so I don't mind it. This throttling is also coupled with a reputation system where you have to grind for reputation points by doing daily quests before you can unlock new quests. This reputation system has been a point of contention among the players of SSO for several years, as the developers would keep changing the amount of reputation you could get from different daily quests. I do mind grinding. I hate grinding. It is the most useless, busybody-making type of mechanic, and coupled with their extremely bad game balance system when it comes to premium currency, to in-game currency, to in-game value of said currency, and the 6,000 items you can get in the game, and counting, it turns the game into work. I am here to have fun, not spend 2 hours grinding daily quests for in-game cash doing fetch quests. Let me put it this way. For an individual item, such as a shirt, if it has decent stats, and sometimes if it doesn't, while it might cost $80 in the real world, at a real-world shop, it will cost $360 in the game, while the generous NPCs giving you in-game currency pay you a grand total of $2.80 to $3.60. A really generous NPC will pay you $4. If you know what you're doing, you can make $80 per day on a good day. It can take 4 to 5 days to buy one item in-game with in-game currency. Or you can use a week's worth of premium currency allowance and buy the item right away. And the premium currency and the in-game currency do not have a steady conversion rate. None of the items outside the very high-priced items have any system where this type of stat setup is going to cost you this much money. There are items in this game with no stats at all that can cost you $180 in-game currency value. That's about half the weekly allowance and the in-game cap of what you can have in in-game currency, or 3 days grinding in-game currency. And while the price of premium currency to in-game currency is 1 to 100, that isn't always true. Sometimes it is cheaper to buy with the premium currency, sometimes it is more expensive. And you never know what it's going to be update to update. Will the conversion rate stay the same? Find out this week on a recolor of Game Gear and equipment set no one wears in Star Stable Online. Not that the stats mean anything. I can see sort of when I'm playing how if you're wearing high stat items and your horse is wearing high stat items, it will run a bit faster and jump a bit better. However, these stats are not explained anyway to the players, and since all the races have a timer, the stat most emphasized is speed, and thus, go faster. So most players don't know this, and they can't tell the difference at all because the changes are really that minuscule. Maybe if a player on a level 1 horse goes against a player on a level 10 horse, you can see, but it shouldn't take that long. When I first started playing, I sat down with the seasonal games in SSO and figured out what stat went with what type of racing, cross-country, show jumping, dressage, or western agility, and made myself a little chart. Until I figured out later, they weren't really going to put in any other races other than cross-country and lip service to everything else. So speed, speed, and more speed. Strength if you can get it for jumps, but mostly speed. You see a lot of players wearing free items in this game, because thankfully there are quest chains that do give free items. Also, there is no money bank, so you grind out to max, buy an item, have to grind out to max again to buy another item at least 8 to 9 times, sometimes 10 times. There's a bank for your clothes and your gear, but no bank for your cash. Now, try to imagine this when holidays come up. You need to buy at least 11 items for a set, and they are all set at the maximum in-game currency level cap, and you have a limited amount of time to get that currency, but it will take you 5 days to max the in-game currency even once. It's a system designed to encourage players with low patience levels to buy premium currency for cosmetics that don't add any real value to the game except to make you look good. Also, at holidays, they tend to add in the special horses you can only get on holidays that are only premium currency purchases. So you have to make this decision. Do I get a horse? Or do I get the tech and gear set that matches the horse? Fortunately, there are other ways to make money in this game that's not grinding daily quests. But you have to have a Pona after level 17 or so, and it's more grinding in mining. I wouldn't call it archaeology. Adding the mall didn't help because it took what little organization they had in their clothing system and threw it out the window, making things 100 times worse when they added an in-game global store. Yes, this game for children has an in-game cash shop, essentially, where all of your cosmetics hang out in one place for the most part. In the spring of 2015, they opened the Jorvik City Mall, a 90s style nostalgia area where you had to take a bus to go to and not part of the open world. And in 2016, they reskinned the South Peninsula and then added 3 more individual game environment levels to Yorvik City that are each maybe the size of a city block. None of this became important until post-Saving Justin in 2017 and closer to 2018. So 2 years later. That same spring, in May of 2015, they released the American Quarter Horse, then proceeded to melt that model later with paint variations, and a slight change of the model produced the Morgans. 13 coat colors. And then later that year, they put in the biggest, in my opinion, unnecessary horse into the game, the Shires. And at the end of the year, the opening of Epona, they introduced these Icelandics. They did an interview with GameBaits in September. By this point, you could quest up to level 17, which the article claims could take 150 hours. There were supposedly 3,000 quests, and the game supported 55 employees. This is the first time I see mobile games mentioned in an interview. 3,000 quests, 4 years after the game opened, when in comparison, WoW allegedly opened with 2,000 quests, and 2 years later they added an expansion to the map with 2,000 more, and WoW had a lot more mechanics, and then 2 years later I think they added 2,000 more quests, so they had 6,000 quests post 4 years after the game opened, versus Star Stable's 3,000. 2016 was the first limited-time exclusive Magic horses were released, and over the year, 6 new horse models for them to exploit reskins were released, including the Mustang, a slight variation with new animations of the American Quarter Horse. This was the beginning of the end. As of 2020, they were releasing a new horse model every month. The price of these horses has ranged from $350 premium for a pony to $950 premium for a horse with a couple extra animations, and they will drop the price of the previous horses when they put out new generations of that horse. And as of this video, there are almost 400 horses you can own in the game across 4 generations of art styles. If you bought 1,000 premium currency every month and bought 1 horse, it'd take you close to 33.5 years to buy all the horses in the game, and they are adding them in every month, 3 to 6 at a time, or 2 exclusives with exclusive matching pets. Right. Pets are also premium currency purchases, again. And if you want them to run alongside you as you run or ride your bout, they are going to cost up to 500 premium currency, as much or more than a pony. So 2016, 2017 is where things started getting sticky. Well, let's get back to the story. You know, the actual content of the game. One of the major plot lines of the game is Justin Moreland's kidnapping. In the chronological version of the story, I think Justin is kidnapped before you free Linda, but they might have changed it. A huge issue with this game is that you cannot replay quests, so you can't remind yourself of story unless you buy another account. And the SSO team has a bad case of the retcons, so you could replay the story and they could change it a month later, and you'd never know. They have changed story, they have changed character personalities, they have taken quests out completely. We don't know. However, this plotline of Justin Moreland being kidnapped had been one of the original plotlines from 2011, since as far as I can tell, Cape West was added in 2012, and Cape West is farther west than Silvergrade Equestrian Center, and you had to be level 12 to enter. Okay, one moment. In 2015, you could be level 17, and in 2012, you could already be level 12, so they added 5 levels in 3 years, and the lower levels do not take a huge amount of experience to achieve. I'm talking under 10,000 XP. Not that they tell you how much XP you actually need to get to the next level. There's a bar, but there's no end goal number stated in sight. Wasted mechanic. Right. Sorry. Moving on. So, they didn't resolve this kidnapping plotline of Justin until April of 2017, 5.5 years after the game opened. The English website opened in May 2012. I have no idea what was updated before in the 8 months between October 2011 and May. Then they promptly turned around and had the Druids kidnap Justin again, and we didn't save him a second time until July 2017, 4 months later. And nothing came of this main plotline except 5 minutes, bites and chunks for the next year and a half until it came time to save Anne in February 2019. Part of the story was disguised as a side quest with a completely different set of characters you had no idea were going to tie into this main story at all. Which normally I wouldn't mind, but at the same time it was confusing due to the poor setup and how many plotlines they'd started and abandoned. Like, why was this South Hoof thing important at all? We didn't know, and history said they could abandon it at any moment. And there hasn't been a major story update really since. Now, normally this wouldn't be a problem. Normally MMOs are combat games with a lot of technical game mechanics. And yes, they did add some game mechanics they haven't really used since some of these story quests to make them more interesting. Like the tossing bottles things. Mini games come and go very fast. It's easy to forget about them in this game because they are all plot related. Once the plot-related stuff is over, so is the minigame. Bad mechanic there for the most part. It's just, most of this game is fetch quests, or races, and one of the game mechanics they added at the climax of rescuing Justin, the computer AI takes over your horse and you fly about in the air for a good 5 minutes with absolutely no control, fiddling your thumbs in what should be the most intense, interactive part of the story arc. Yes, your horse is flying as a game mechanic, and you can't control it. Most of the game mechanics, though they've added to this game, aren't really anything that adds value to the player gaming experience. It's been mostly customization options in a shop, and the ability to buy new things and take pictures in the game. Saddlebags, pets, leading your horse. Badly. The player has no skills other than running away, and during the rescue of Anne, we had to rely on another NPC to throw balls of lightning around so we could gather them and run into a big monster. Look, obviously the other character didn't really need us. During the build-up to this Save Anne quest, we truly didn't learn the important skill that led us to the important character we needed to save Anne. No, we played music to support for Justin Moreland, and what little we did learn of the skill, we can't turn on and off either and use it in-game on our own. There's no skill button. We are not the main character of this game. As far as I can tell, we are never going to be the main character of this game. I can't even count on 2 hands and my toes how many storylines areas that have been completely dropped or forgotten in this game. I mean, 20 is probably a low estimate. Going into the story. That's another video. A good example of drop quests and bad minigame mechanics is when it comes to saving New Hillcrest stables. Again, there are 10-minute long movies of boxing matches the player can't influence, even though the NPC doing the boxing matches taught us to box and we could be boxing. And wait, is this the second stable we're saving from ruin in this game? I can't count all the kidnappings, and that questline has been completely abandoned so much that Ricky, that's going to be important in a second, the NPC has moved to another area for all intents and purposes. Ricky is also a take on Rocky, and the NPC character looks like Stallone. He originally even had black hair. They changed it to red. Star Stable has this bad habit of introducing other IP in memes, in real-world references into the game in such a way that if these people knew about it, like Ricky aka Rocky, they might be sued. Ricky is the most blatant I've seen, but he is not the only thing I've seen. Speaking of kidnapping plots, drop plots and losing moving characters. Look, they opened Epona in November of 2015, and we lost a main character named Herman because he was kidnapped. And we then didn't rescue Herman until the March of 2018, 2.5 years later. And it was 10 minutes of quest and a race. That's 5 I've mentioned. 5 kidnappings. 8 the horses are separate events. Saga, Starshine, and Concord. So why is this important? You see, Star Stable's biggest advertising draw is they update their game every week. Yes, you get something new every Wednesday. It could be a new horse to buy, it could be new tech, it could be new pets, it could be new stories. Or, as of November 2017, after they opened Mistfall, it could be them re-wallpapering their assets in a specific region or even new UI. 3 of those things are buy options. Yes, in November of 2017, they opened an area called Mistfall and decided they were changing the graphic style of the game to be more stylized like Warcraft. They had been accused of being World of Horsecraft before, and I guess they decided to take it literally. This every Wednesday update schedule was decided in the first 8 months of the game opening. They were firmly on an every Wednesday update schedule when they opened their servers worldwide in 2012 and opened Cape West. And one of the update options is story, which depending on how much time they put into it can be a couple hours versus 10-minute chunks. One week, somewhere in this we need to rescue somebody plotline, they literally put in a 5-minute quest for us to talk to the Soul Riders, for the Soul Riders to tell us to be patient. It was the most condescending bullshit I've seen in a game due to their player base ever. The way the story is updated reveals several things. 1, their priorities. It's not story. 2, they don't know where this story is going, it's being decided in committee. 3, there is a certain amount of what we could consider laziness on the story part here because throttling and grind is to distract from the fact you don't have meaty content to the game. And 4, and most importantly to me as an author and dev editor, it removes all tension and emotional pacing from the plot, especially when you can't replay quests. Kidnapping plots, the most common plot in SSO, tend to be time-sensitive types of plots based on their very nature. They're thrillers. You don't want the kidnappee to be hurt. I recommend as a dev editor not to put in a kidnapping plot until you've got your readers really attached to your characters. Here in SSO, the players would have to be those who played Starshine Legacy to really care about Lisa and Anne. But in SSO, we meet Justin, we meet Herman. These are our friends. So they get kidnapped and we twiddle our thumbs in real world time for 2 to 5 years, depending on the character, waiting to take charge, take action, and rescue them. While in-game NPCs tell us to have patience and tell us to wait and downright won't do anything even if they know where the kidnapped people are, and then turn around and kidnap the same NPC. Cue emotional frustration. And as time goes by, the urgency fades, we start to care less than if we get a crumb of hope only to be told, have patience. To me, it invokes a level of disgust. Why should I play this game if the story is going to string me along so much by the time it does happen? It should be. If you're playing this game as the story comes out, it has to be extremely epic and fraught with tension, and you have to be the star of this show to get the emotional payoff the original plot promised. But you sit in front of your computer while you watch your horse fly around in a cinematic. So the tension, the payoff, falls flat on its face. Or instead of scoping out the area yourself and finding Justin, another NPC shows up to conveniently give you the information so you can rescue him a second time. Look, girlie, I'm the star of the show. Go away. Plus, smelling his laundry, creepy. Or you grab Herman into a 5-minute runaway race from the area instead of sneaking into Old Hillcrest and saving everyone and Herman. Oh, right, we still have to save Old Hillcrest. There are still people screaming behind a big wall. 5.5 years after we opened Epona and learned about these trapped people, there is a construction equipment right there. I can run it into the wall. Fun times with bulldozers. What is the holdup? I don't know what's worst, the missed opportunities for story in this game, or the story as released doesn't live up to the hype of the original premise given to the players. As Prime Emerald Eris pointed out on Tumblr, when you're angry at the characters, the story is well written. When you're angry at the writers, it is not. If you hadn't figured it out, I'm angry at the writers. Right. Next alleged rumor. The original game dev team is gone, completely. There is no one there who has an understanding of the original plotline, if there had been an original plotline. In 2016-2017 is around the time, according, again, alleged rumor, the last game dev who had worked on the original game left the studio and there was a new management team. This is also around the time that they split off or someone bought them out, and instead of being produced by Pixel Tales as Star Stable Online AB, they became Star Stable Entertainment AB. Somewhere in the 2015 to 2017 area, there was a transition period as is normal in business. It's murky and hard to track when they keep changing names because I'm American and they're Swedish. If your alarm bells are ringing, well, you must know about MMO games or games in general. One of the things Star Stable Entertainment did was give an interview with Forbes in June 2017, where they revealed, yes, there was a lore book, and they had made $17 million in profit. They had 10 million players, the first public count they revealed, though no count of active players. Much more important, they also gave an interview with another website in Swedish, promising they were looking into merchandising like toys or clothes, books, other small games Star Stable related, probably mobile like running games, and of all things, making a movie. Toys never came to pass despite high player demand. If you want SSO themed toys, you need to find someone customizing Briar horses and do a commission. Clothes were logo tees and not enough sizes and very limited. They did some too expensive for what they were bracelets for a bit. Their store is now gift cards for memberships and premium currency. About the books, I honest to God laughed. As an indie author, I knew that if they were doing books, it wasn't going to be an international release at the least. They weren't going to get them done right away either. I turned out to be right. They have released 3 of them in Swedish, and I'm not sure how many translations they've done, but for a while there, they were only going to be selling ebooks of the English version. And to make matters kind of worse, they changed the story of Starshine Legacies these books are supposed to be telling. They changed lore. Lore they've had since 2005. I am boggled. And according to the critical readers, they did so badly. The author, who seems like a genuinely nice woman, is a Swedish young adult horror novelist. For a game they're currently marketing as middle grade. Going into the alleged issues with the books, that's another video. Okay, my lovelies, I'm going to end the video here for now. Mostly for the sake of my voice and for the sake of time. No one wants to listen to me yammer for over an hour. Alright, next time, things get worse. So see you in the next video, my lovelies.